So Joe Biden and America have bombed Syria. Read Iran. Or you could say Iraq. It's on the Syria-Iraq border. And everyone is freaking out. Now, I'm going to do something called moral and intellectual consistency, and I'm going to treat this the exact same had if Donald Trump done it. Now, my criticism is this was not done soon enough. Because every time there's a shift in the geopolitical landscape, what Iran will do, the Islamic Republic loves to kill people and test the limits. When John Bolton left office, they're like, ooh, what can you get away with now? And they had their militants attack Saudi Arabia. Trump decided to increase sanctions, right? Iran learned. We try and go against America and its allies under Trump, bad things happen. Now, it's good that Biden did this. He did not do it soon enough, because what happened? Joe Biden came in. And even though Joe Biden was bowing down to Iran, doing everything they want, they are theocratic, fascist, totalitarian lunatics who want to take over the world. They are not able to be reasoned with. So even though Biden was appointing pro-Iranians to his foreign affairs advisory, bringing in their propagandists, pushing their narrative, helping undermine American interests, they still said, what can we get away with? So they bombed an American airbase, killed an American. Biden did nothing. The media ran cover for them. I read you the story in MSNBC, which it was like, yes, Iranian-backed militias attacked America, but we're not sure if Iran was involved. Sure. Now, because it's about Joe Biden, the media is actually properly framing it now as a retaliatory strike against Iran, which they would never have done for Donald Trump. But still, I'm going to be consistent on both sides here. So, what did the Iranians learn? They learned they can kill Americans and strike. And nothing happens. Ooh, so what do they do? Strike number 2! Let's try and kill more Americans. And then Joe Biden did nothing. So what do? We strike again, and the third strike against America. Then finally Joe Biden responded. Now, good for him for responding, okay? This is not an offensive military thing. This is clearly defensive and retaliatory. The Democrats in Congress are calling this, oh, it's an offensive strike. He doesn't have authority to strike the Middle East without congressional approval. Shut up. Shut up. You can't go to Congress and have like a 3-month debate on whether to respond to an attack. He clearly, within the powers of the executive, has rights to issue retaliatory strikes. Not declare war, a full-scale war, but he does have the authority to launch a retaliatory strike against the Iranians. And you can't go to Congress and say, here's what we want to bomb, this strategic location. Are we allowed? Let's have 4 months of debate. You can't, again, this is all the Democrats' fault. You cannot go to Congress and talk about like military secrets when Ilhan Omar is the vice chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee. I'm sorry, Ilhan Omar will go turn around and give that information to the terrorists because she's a terrorist supporter. She would call her friends in Qatar, they get on the phone with Tehran, and then boom, your cover's blown. They inform Hezbollah, and Hezbollah has an advantage. You cannot do that when you have a terrorist supporter as the vice chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Sorry, cannot happen. So what did happen? Now, it was a good strike. It was a strategic border crossing position on the Iraq-Syria border that Hezbollah and Iran uses to sort of run militants in. They kill like 16, 17 militants. So it is good that they finally responded. But again, this is Joe Biden's fault. Okay? He let this go on way too long. This needed to be a week ago. Right after the first attack, he needed to respond. Needed to respond to prevent the next 2 attacks. And he needed to do it quicker so the American people could quite rightly see, oh, they killed Americans, we bomb them back. Okay, this sets the precedent. But because he didn't do anything right away, and the media thought, oh, okay, we're going to ignore Iran because Joe Biden's pro-Iran, so we're pro-Iran. So let's do Iranian propaganda, right? The Iranians might have bombed us, but did Iran have anything to do with Iran? Thank you, MSNBC. So after doing a week and a half of Iranian propaganda, then Joe Biden will be forced to respond. They now have to shift gears, turn the wheel, and then start doing the Biden propaganda. And you know what? I'm happy. For the next week, the mainstream media is going to be pro-America. Kind of. That's a good thing. Hope it sticks. It won't. Now the problem is Joe Biden is already framing this attack as like, we must do this in conjunction with diplomacy, and the diplomacy is the Iran deal. The Iran deal is a moral abomination. And Joe Biden himself is at fault for a lot of this horrible response because, here's a tweet from Biden back in 2019 where he participates in this same nonsense that the people criticizing him now are. That's him criticizing Trump, saying, oh, Trump doesn't understand, and these strikes against Iran, you don't understand, they can create war. Which means he was lying there. Like, I'm going to give Joe Biden the benefit of the doubt, not say he's old and senile and stupid and a hypocrite. He was just lying for political purposes there. That's what he was doing. Just lying, just a malicious, cynical lie to the American people that degraded the public discourse. So, listen, we have a problem now where everyone wants to get in teams. I don't expect the left to know anything about foreign policy, but I'm going to hold the right to a higher standard. I'm going to hold you guys to a bit of a higher standard. We would be cheering this under Donald Trump because it'd be the right thing to do. And if you want to say, oh, pro-war, Democrats are trying to start wars. Like, no, this is how you prevent wars. I say this all the time. Like, Iran is not the Netherlands. You cannot reason with them. You cannot go to the negotiating table and ask them to stop striking you. They only respect strength. And when they attack you and you show them that attacks result in consequences, this is how you prevent wider scale war with Iran. It's a good thing. Now, if Biden goes into the Iran deal, a global war will happen eventually. But for right now, if he takes steps like these will avoid larger scale conflicts. That's a good thing. It's a hard thing to understand that you can use violence to deter war, but you have to understand that evil exists in the world and not everyone has Western values that you can be reasoned with. So, is it a good thing? Yes, but it's also like praising your 9-year-old son for learning how to tie his shoes when, that should be done at like 4, 5, or 6. Right? The problem with the strike is it is a week late, right? Iran has learned that they're the bigger guys. They got 3 off to America's 1. So in their mind, they can still take a victory from this, right? It should have been 2 strikes after the first one to teach them a lesson. You wouldn't have had a third. But the problem is, this is how Iran works. They've learned that they can have 3 strikes before 1 comes back. The next thing they're going to do, in a couple months, you're going to see they're going to try and see what happens if we do 2 strikes. What happens if we do 2 attacks in America? What happens? And then they're going to see what happens. Okay, 2, and then they're going to try, what about if we just do 1? What if we just do a bit of undermining here? Right? Had you done 1 strike from Iran, 2 strikes from America, they immediately learn, okay, Joe Biden not to be messed with. We can't really do it this way. But this is how they work. So because this was too late, and because Joe Biden and the Democrats have been participating for years in undermining American foreign policy and American interests and pushing an anti-American attitude across the world, well, now you're going to reap the benefits of that while you're in office. So when they do something right, yeah, I'm going to praise them. When they take actions that deter further conflicts, I'll back them. But I'm a bit more optimistic on Joe Biden than I was on the Wednesday show, of course. Am I optimistic that Joe Biden is going to be good on foreign policy? No. He's already 1,000 times better than Obama, who, after Iran did 3 strikes against America, under Barack Obama, he might have bombed America as in retaliation to Iran bombing America. That's Obama foreign policy. So, is this better than Obama? Yes. Am I better than Obama? Yes. Is this USB drive a better president than Barack Obama in terms of foreign policy? Absolutely. So the bar is very low. What does this mean going forward? We still have to see. We'll see how the next wave of Iranian attacks are responded to. We'll see if the media still runs Iranian propaganda or switches to pro-American propaganda. We'll have to wait and see. But right now, no, this is not war with Syria. No, this is not Biden being like, guys, the way to win long term is don't go for cheap political points. Don't go to the populist. Biden and the Democrats, pro-war machine, corporate. No. Iran killed Americans. This is a response. He has every right to do so. He should have done so a week earlier. But it's a good strike against a high strategic target. It limits Iran and Hezbollah's capabilities in the Middle East. And that is a good thing. It will result in less dead Westerners, which is good. The optimal amount of dead Americans is 0. And this is a step towards that.